Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 7th study circle meeting of GSTPAM 2022-23. And today we are going to have speaker our own past president Shri Dinesh Tambde ji, and we welcome Shri Dinesh Tambde ji with a loud round of applause. Dinesh Tambde ji is going to take up the issue of how to reply the show cause notice, which is the day in, day out work. Today, everybody in the evening must be drafting one or the other notices, reply to notices, and therefore Dinesh ji will help us in that. Let me give, though he is known to everybody over here and the people listening to us on online also, but still, for the sake of formality, let me just give a formal introduction of Dinesh ji. He is a graduate in commerce and law. Started practicing in the sales tax in 2003 under the BST era. He obtained his law degree from the Mumbai University, and today he regularly appears before the MSTT, that is Maharashtra Sales Tax Tribunal, Bombay High Court, and other courts in the country. His area of practice includes advisory, compliance, litigation, audit under GST, VAT, excise, service tax, and allied laws. And he has held a number of positions in various associations, including the president of the GSTPAM for 1920. He is also a regular column writer to the GST Review. And with this brief introduction, may I once again request everybody to welcome Dinesh ji. May I now request President Sir to give a memento. Before I hand over the mic to President Sir, we'd like to congratulate President Sir and the GSTPM entirely for its efforts in getting the new settlement scheme 2023 announced in this budget. And it is even better scheme than the 2022 scheme, even better scheme. And this will definitely bring closure to many of the matters. I think most of the matters can be closed in this scheme. And with this, I hand over the mic to President Sir for his opening remarks. And we have also filed. We have today also filed a representation before the Honorable Commissioner of State Tax for staying all recovery proceedings in view of this amnesty scheme which is announced, especially in case of demand where demand is less than 2 lakhs per year, or the statutory order demand is less than 50 lakhs, because otherwise the entire scope of the amnesty will be defeated. And I think there is an in principle approval also that they might come out with some circular. Let's wait for the circular. Thank you, and I hand over the mic to President Sir.
Good afternoon, everybody who are all physically present here and virtually. I thank Dias for coming here. See, this March month was the month of celebration. Initially, we had a RRC at Lucknow, which was a grand success. We had around 210 participants. And after that, we had an Ayodhya visit, and we had a very good darshan of Ayodhya Mandir. Means it is under the construction stage, but we had visited the Ram Janma Bhoomi. It was a very good feeling over there. And everybody was happy. I'll tell you that we had 210 participants, and out of that, 185 participants had visited the Ayodhya. And I'll tell you, there are two persons who visited the Ayodhya on wheelchair. Means that was the importance of that place. So we had celebrated RRC there, Ram Janmabhoomi. Then Dhuli Bandhan was there in this month. Then we are approaching Gudi Padwa on 22nd. And obviously the Happy New Year of our Hindu Sanskriti. And as well as we celebrate, as a Sindhi, we celebrate Cheti Chand, when the first moon of the new year. And I congratulate you on that and wish you all the best for the coming new year of Hindu Chaitya. What do you call it as? Chaitya. Now, tomorrow we have, day after tomorrow, we are having the RRC at Goa. It is organized by the Ratnagiri district. There are 6 associations. And we are participating also as a outstation seminar in Goa. We have been awarded an amnesty scheme by the state finance minister, state government, and it was a long pending. Since 30th September, when the earlier amnesty scheme was closed, we had been approaching the various authorities for, first of all, we approached for the extension of the amnesty scheme. But they said, why you want to the amnesty scheme to be extended? We'll be coming with a new amnesty scheme in the budget. That was promised, and they fulfilled their promises. I thank, on behalf of GSTPAM and all the members of GSTPAM, to our Commissioner Shri Rajiv Mittalji IAS, who had been very instrumental in bringing this amnesty scheme. And today only, our LNR committee has submitted the representation regarding the non-recovery of dues till the amnesty scheme is in force. And we are definitely getting the positive response from them, because up to 2 lakh, there will not be any demand is to be paid by anyone. Department will waive off the demand. You don't have to approach the department also. Let us get the schemes properly, notification should reach to us. And about the 50 lakhs, we have to pay 20%. Prima facie, what we have studied yet. And about the above, see, we had been trying to, for another, also for the partial withdrawal and all, but there was no response from their side. They said no partial withdrawal will be there. Say under the same line of the earlier scheme, we will be floating this scheme, but with more benefits. There we had 10,000 ka waiver off, but here we have got a 2 lakh ka waiver off without any proceeding, without any application. I'm telling you, without any application, your department will automatically waive off those and close the DBA, debit balance register rehta hai kuch unka. They will close that, they round off the figures. You don't have to go to the department at all. And we are coming with the, as soon as the notification comes, we'll arrange a mega guidance cell for that. Hope please attend that. And that's all. I wish you all the best. And we have the 7th study circle today. We have a learned speaker, Mr. Dinesh Tambde, our beloved member and past president of the GSTPAM. So I wish him all the best. I wish you a happy learning. Thank you very much.
May I now request Dinesh ji to
One small task is to be completed. Now, our staff, Yogesh Patil ji, इनका लड़का जो है, his son has won a silver medal in the age group of 20-25 weight category in international platform championship 2022. So we would like to add from the GSTPM side, we would like to honor him. I request our Dinesh Tambde, today's speaker, to offer him. And we have been awarding him 7,501 as a cash prize also. Out of that, 5,000 has been donated by our own minister, Mr. Ajay Talreja.
This appreciation award is being given for winning silver medal age group in 20 to 25 kg weight category in international karate and kickboxing championship 2022. That is what I wanted to tell you.
Now I request our Vice President, permission to give a cash prize to Gaurav.
चलो हो गया ये पीपीटी लाओ पीपीटी है ना वो ना मतलब पीपीटी
Yes.
ये पार्टिसिपेंट है आपको आदि 51 क्या बात Huh? We can start with the introductory part, right? Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I thank GSTPAM and the president for giving me an opportunity to study this subject. I had requested Umang to give me this privilege because I am there in the managing committee since last 14 years, but speaking in the study circle meeting is a privilege that I had never got. And this is the first time in my life or the time I have spent in the GSTPM. This is the first time I am speaking in the study circle meeting. So I must thank GSTPM for giving this opportunity. And I think this is a privilege given to me. But the olden days, when we used to have study circle meetings, Mayur Bhai will recollect, this hall used to be full with all the members of GSTPM. Nowadays, we don't see those, what we can say, do not come across that scenario nowadays. Maybe because of hybrid, that there also we can see only 51 participants. So nowadays, I don't think people want to learn. People are least interested in learning. Maybe they would be doing self-studies, but maybe there are so many lectures available on YouTube, etc. People are not interested in unscheduled lecture. Maybe according to their schedule, it may be the unscheduled lecture. So they don't want to attend, and they may be listening to these lectures. Maybe later on, recorded lecture they would listen. So what I have conceived in my mind that I have to give, although there would be the minimum participation, I will have to give my sincere efforts, as this lecture would be listened later on, recorded lecture. Now this lecture, so far as is concerned, very important for day-to-day practice. I was discussing with my nephew coming in car. I was discussing with my nephew that this subject is so important for our practice, that only written filing is not a practice going to remain in future. We are all busy in filing returns on every 10th day of the month and 28th day of the month. We have to file online return. For that, we are busy and we don't study or learn this kind of topics. But in future, this subject is going to be a practice, and practitioners will have to be, if they would not make themselves conversant with this drafting and replying show cause notice, they will have to be dependent on the seniors or lawyers like us. So if you remain incompetent to reply the show cause notices in the proper manner, or if you would not learn to reply the show cause notices in proper manner, you will have to be dependent on the others. So with this opening remark, let us come to the subject proper. The subject given to me, am I audible if I keep mic like this? Am I audible to everyone? Online, I will not be audible.
You want the
Okay. See, today's topic given to me, today's topic given to me is the show cause notice. Idhar bhi aa raha hai awaaz.
Okay.
I'll just take a minute's time to.
Because someone is saying audio is not working, but it seems audio is working. बाकी किसी का complaint.
Okay, some technical checking is going on, so we are taking pause of a minute. Yeah. Te dena mala, te dena.
Yes.
ते लावायचं तरी बस झालं.
Yes. Yes.
अच्छा, एवढंच आहे.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. T-shirt. Okay, so topic is show cause notice. So let us try to just understand what is show cause notice. Show cause notice is basically the opportunity given to you on the basis of that legal maxim, audio alteram partem, that let the other side be heard. So this is the opportunity. Show cause notice is an opportunity which is available to you to justify your stand. Now, under law, under GST law, the show cause notice, there is specific provision for show cause notice, and there are several judgments under the old Central Excise Service Tax laws, which say that unless the show cause notice is given in the specified format, it may not be considered as a show cause notice. So only receipt of a letter or communication or some suggestion or advisory cannot be considered as a show cause notice. Notice to show cause has to be issued under specified section. So it has to be issued under a specified section and with all its ingredients, essential ingredients. We will deal with those ingredients. Then show cause notice is mandatorily required for raising demand. Notice is thus a sine qua non for any demand proceedings, and SCN is one of the one that set the law in motion. What does it mean? That it is mandatory for raising any demand. If you would look at the GST law, there cannot be a demand merely by initiating audit proceedings or merely by issuing a notice in ASMT 10. There cannot be demand. So for putting the demand into motion or law into the motion, there has to be a show cause notice. Unless show cause notice is issued, recovery actions cannot be initiated. After show cause notice, there has to be determination of demand. So show cause notice is the first stage where from the demand can be raised. Then reply to show cause notice submitted has to be considered by the adjudicating authority, and only then the liability has to be determined by issuing order or adjudication, also known as order in original. So once you receive show cause notice, you have to reply. After reply, the adjudication will happen. Process of adjudication, personal hearing, etc. will happen, and thereafter the order will be issued, which is called as order in original. We are all new to all these concepts because under old VAT era, there used to be assessment. We used to attend assessments, we used to get notices for assessment, and we used to produce books of accounts, and thereafter the assessment order used to be passed. After giving you the required hearings, etc., the demand is to be determined by way of assessment proceedings. But under GST, the total concept is different. There is no assessment as such, except few sections which are there under the GST law. Will come across those. Show cause notice is foundation on which department has to build its case. So from the point of view of the department, show cause notice is very important because the department cannot go beyond the show cause notice. Whatever points or the issue raised in the show cause notice, they cannot go beyond that. They have to remain stick to that while raising liability. Then coming to this is the slide. I'll just give brief about my slide. It's already 2:30 because and I have only 1 hour's time, so I will quickly run through the slides. My slides are very self-explanatory. I'll circulate those slides. I have dealt with various case laws. If I would not be able to lay hands on those, then you can refer those slides. This is just these slides or the PPT are just the introductory to the show cause notice, concept of show cause notice, so that you can use those judgments, etc. Now see which are the nature of violations available under the law, provided under the law. Denial of option to pay tax under composition, that is under section 10. Then show cause notice has to be issued in GST CMP 05. Those all forms are provided. We will be dealing with show cause notices which are being issued under section 73, 74 and 76. In PPT, we will remain stick to the situation of show cause notices under section 73, 74 and 76. However, basic principles of replying and handling adjudication proceedings will remain the same in all situations. So in all situations, how to handle show cause notice is same. So these are all the proceedings which are there in which show cause notices are being issued. Now let us deal with the show cause note, some of the proceedings which are there under the law. इधर करने का इधर
Minimize करो ना?
हाँ मिनिमाइज करो इसको. इसको सरका के लिए मैं नीचे तो फिर वो डिस्टर्ब
करेगा.
जाने दो, छोड़ो जाने दो.
हाँ. Hide floating. चलो.
Yes. Thank you. See, these are the, as I stated in the beginning, we are this process of adjudication or assessment is very new to all of us, as we used to attend the whole assessment under the VAT era. Under GST, there's no whole assessment. ये आगे जाने का बंद हो गया. We are accustomed to technical glitches.
Next.
So See, under GST, emphasis is given to self-assessment. It is expected by the government that you will assess yourself in the proper manner and tax will be paid in the proper manner by way of returns. And therefore, they have emphasized on the self-assessment. There is no assessment, but they do scrutiny of returns under section 61. So there is a scrutiny of return. There is no assessment, full year assessment. Under 61, they issue ASMT 10, etc. And they do scrutiny of return. Assessment of non-filer of returns. Assessment is available only in cases of non-filer of returns under section 62, wherein notice of 15 days in GSTR 3A under rule 68 is given. And if the returns are not filed, then base judgment assessment is done. And this base judgment assessment is deemed to be withdrawn if the returns are filed within 30 days. So this is the provision of base judgment assessment available for return non-filers. Now there are some supplementary questions as to if the returns are not filed within 30 days, what will happen? If filed after 30 days, what will happen? According to me, after 30 days, if the returns are filed, you can approach the assessing authority and ask him to cancel the application. And thereafter, the proceedings will go further if it doesn't cancel. Then there is assessment of unregistered person. Now here also they can issue show cause notice. Here there is adjudication, and they will hear you. They will ask you to produce books of accounts, etc., and they will determine liability if the assessee is liable to pay tax. Then there's summary assessment in special circumstances. Now what is the summary assessment? Summary assessment is to protect the revenue. Where the officer feels that there is some evasion of tax, he will issue notice in ASMT 16 for summary assessment, and thereafter he can pass order in DRC 07. But for that, he will have to first take permission from the additional commissioner or joint commissioner. And thereafter, the ASMT application for withdrawal of assessment can be filed. If the assessment order is passed, you can file application for withdrawal of assessment within 30 days. Order of withdrawal or rejection can be passed in ASMT 18. And thereafter, adjudication proceedings under section 73, 74 can be initiated. So this is section 64 is the proceeding which is available under the law to safeguard the revenue, where if any officer believes, he has reason to believe that there is some evasion of tax, he can immediately issue notice, and within 30 days, he can pass order. You can file application for withdrawal of assessment, and thereafter, then adjudication, fresh adjudication under section 73 or 74 will start. So these are this is one more provision which we have to be ready with this kind of consequences in our day-to-day practice, that you can face this kind of notices. Then audit by authority under section 65. These are all things going on nowadays. Central departments are doing audits for 3 years, 4 years. So this is 65 audit. Then special audit by CA, that is under section 66. Then determination under section 73, 74. So these are the proceedings which are available under the GST law for putting recovery action into the process. Now scrutiny of return. Now let us quickly go through what is the scrutiny of return. You all must have become expert in these proceedings, because we are day in, day out, we are facing this scrutiny of returns. ASMT 10, information regarding discrepancy in return, that is seeking explanation within 30 days from the date of service of notice. That is ASMT 10 is issued. Then you have to give explanation in ASMT 11. Either you have to accept or reject whatever proposition is made in ASMT 10. Then thereafter, if you have paid tax, then order of acceptance of reply explanation in ASMT 11. So officer will issue ASMT 12. That is very rare. I don't think that is happening, because they are not issuing any ASMT 12, and despite we pay tax. So that is not happening. I don't think that is happening. Is that happening? No, ASMT 12 is not being issued by the officer, even if we pay tax. Then if the officer is not satisfied with the reply, the officer has to proceed with either audit, or he has to proceed with adjudication under section 73, 74. So scrutiny of return is not the proceeding, I would say, to raise the liability. For raising liability, he has to proceed against you under section 73 or 74. Now, audit by authority. Let us quickly understand what is the audit. In audit, what they do, they verify whether the exemption claim is correctly claimed or not, deductions, rate of tax, ITC availed, utilized, refund, whether correctly claimed or not, other relevant issues. Those are all things they have to verify in audit. Now, audit is conducted at the place of business of the registered person or in the office of the officer. So audit can be conducted at the place of the registered person or in the office, GST office. The period of audit can be financial year or part thereof. So there, in old era, we used to have yearly assessment, but now it is not like that. They can club very number of financial years, or there can be audit for 6 months or 3 months. There's no period specified. Then during the course of audit, registered person must afford. Now, what is the duty of registered person? He has to afford facility to verify books of account and other documents, returns, etc. Now, documents, I had a query there. Whether documents I have to show him my accounting software. Should I give him this question is there? So according to me, we have to give him document. We don't have to open our accounting software and let him sit on the accounting software. Furnishing required information, rendering assistance for completion of audit. These are all duties. Then this is very important that we see that audit continues for a year, longer time. Any number of months they conduct audit, but there is a period provided under the law that audit should be completed within 3 months. Period can be increased by the commissioner up to 6 months. So total period available for audit is only of 6 months. If that audit proceeding goes on beyond 6 months, you can object, citing the provision under the law that you cannot go beyond. Even in search, they carry search operation for a year, keep harassing clients. So there also you can object that saying that there is a period provided under the law of maximum 6 months. In 6 months, you have to complete the proceeding. Then these are the procedural aspect. Notice in GST ADT 01 is issued. Then findings and reasonings are to be given in ADT 02 within 30 days of conclusion of audit. So they have to provide you finding in ADT 02. This is there. These central officers are issuing this. Then discrepancies informed in ADT 02. They inform discrepancy and you have to file reply. You have to file formal reply whether you are accepting it. There are various points which are given in ADT 02. Some of them you may accept, some of them you may not accept. You may justify some of them. So you have to reply that. My suggestion would be that you just pay whatever you are accepting, you pay it off with different challans in DRC 03 with proper note in that for what reason you are paying, and you reply along with that DRC 03, you reply to that ADT 02 so that at least that much amount of liability will go away and there will not be implication of penalty, etc. Interest obviously you will have to pay. Then further, if ADT 02 is not accepted or partially accepted and partially not accepted, then proceeding under section 73, 74 will be initiated. That is the natural effect. Now, these are the provisions for investigation. There also they do search, seizure, etc. They investigate. But for raising liability, again, they will have to issue notice under section 73 or 74. Here they will issue notice under section 74. So whatever they would be doing, whatever proceeding they are carrying out, for that they will have to issue show cause notice. There is no way for raising liability. For raising liability, they will ultimately have to issue show cause notice. Without show cause notice, they cannot raise liability. So ultimately, they have to reach out to section 73 or 74. Now coming to some of the cases which are beneficial to us. This is the Vadivel Pyrotech Private Limited. This is Madras High Court judgment wherein it is held that if the issues which are stated in ASMT 10 are not issues which are in show cause notice are different than ASMT 10, then it is violation of principle of natural justice. So whatever issues they are stating in DRC 01, they should not go beyond ASMT 10 while stating or framing the show cause notice. So whatever is in ASMT 10, whatever points or the points for liability which are there in ASMT 10, the same point should be there in DRC 01. DRC 01 cannot differ than whatever is there in ASMT 10. That is what, and there here Honorable High Court remanded back matter for a fresh opportunity. But if what I visualize or what I anticipate is this: if we do not approach High Court in such cases, and if we go in first appeal, taking help of this judgment, if we set aside that order in original, can the officer issue fresh show cause notice again for those issues? My prima facie answer is no. Your order will be set aside and there will be no liability. Now, here in this case, what has happened? High Court remanded back the matter to the adjudicating authority. So he got again his powers got revived, and he could adjudicate giving fresh notice. But in first appeal, if you go and if that order in originally set aside, now remember if you verify section 107 subsection 11, the powers of the first appellate authority, he doesn't have power to remand the case back. He cannot remand the case back. He will have to set aside the order on the basis of this kind of judgment. There are various judgments of this kind. You will have to set aside the order. Can the adjudicating authority revive the proceeding by issuing fresh notice? According to me, prima facie answer is no. We'll have to make research on that. We'll have to test that issue. My suggestion will be this: that if similar kind of eventuality you come across, don't go reach out to High Court, go to first appellate authority, get the order be set aside, or go to tribunal when the tribunal will be formed. One hassle will be there of paying pre-deposit of 10%, but that will remain. But then the whole proceeding will be set aside by the tribunal, or tribunal has a power to remand back there. Tribunal may remand it back to the adjudicating authority, but there we can have some other grounds and say that this order itself is bad in law. So this is what I feel. Now coming to another judgment, this is in case of Soumya Agrotech, Calcutta High Court. Pre-SCN consultation is provided. See, now we do not know this kind of proceedings, as we were not practicing under the erstwhile excise and service tax. Under erstwhile service tax and excise, there was procedure of pre-consultation. Under GST law, there is a procedure of pre-consultation. Now, under GST law, they have ensured that there would not be litigation. People will come forward and pay tax, accept the liability and pay tax. So they want to give utmost opportunity to people or the assessee that they will come forward and pay tax. So there is always pre-consultation before issue of show cause notice, and there is a specific provision under Rule 142(1)(a), which says that before issue of show cause notice, there will be an intimation or the communication in form DRC 01A. So they will issue DRC 01A and ask you, if you agree, you just pay this amount with interest. There will not be further proceeding. There will not be further recovery action. So in this case, that pre-consultation notice in form DRC 01A was not issued, and therefore it was held that there is a violation of principle of natural justice. So similar, this thing we can challenge in the first appeal, and instead of reaching out directly to High Court, let us go in first appeal and get it set aside, because your first appellate authority doesn't have power to remand the case back. Rahul would have this different opinion. Rahul, you want to say something on this? You're busy with something else. Determination of tax paid or short paid, or paid erroneously or refunded. Now see, I'm just explaining what is the provision. You all must be aware about this. 73 is for fraud, or 73 is without fraud or willful misstatement, and 74 is for fraud and willful misstatement. Now, proper officer to issue show cause notice in both the cases. Now, if there's one issue which I have noticed here is this, that in these sections of adjudication, the word proper officer is stated, and in appeal, it states adjudication. Appeal against the order passed by the adjudicating officer. Now one of the high courts has differentiated proper officer and adjudicating officer. But the word in section 73, 74 is the proper officer. Now, for evaluating this thin line between adjudicating officer and proper officer, when he passes any order in the capacity of quasi-judicial authority, he is the adjudicating authority. He has been given powers by way of the notifications issued by the central government and the state government to adjudicate the matter. So he is acting in the capacity of adjudicating authority. So these orders are, although it is stated in the section that proper officer, but he is acting in the capacity of adjudicating officer, and therefore appeals can be filed. That is how, because if you would strictly interpret it without taking help of those notifications of powers, etc., then you will say that these orders are non-appealable. But this will be the absurd situation. So we have to harmoniously interpret this proper officer word with in consonance with the notifications of powers issued by the central government and state government. Now, mere statement containing non-payment, short payment can be served. Now, this is the normal provision that once the notice is issued for one reason, for one financial year or for 1 month, then for similar reason, there's no requirement to issue elaborate notice. They can just issue statement. Then this is the important part which we have to concentrate, that the time limit. Now, time limit provided for issue of notice is at least 3 months prior to issuance of order. And in case of section 74, with at least 6 months prior to issue of order. Now, for passing order, there's period of limitation of 3 years from the due date of annual return and 5 years from the due date of annual return under section 74. So these are the important things. Whenever you will come across the any show cause notice, you will have to first evaluate whether whether the period of limitation is properly complied or not. This is the chart which I have prepared to quickly understand when the period of limitation is getting over, so far as years 17, 18, 18, 19 and 19, 20 are concerned. So these are the self-explanatory. I will not go to the dates. I hope those annual return dates are correct, right? Sorry. Mohir bhai, correct hai na dates? So now you will understand that 17, 18 for 73, show cause notice was to be issued before 6th November 2022 and order was to be passed before 6th February. So under 73, that is time barred. But under 74, that is yet to be time barred. So this is how is the period of limitation. Now, so far as refund are concerned, you have to calculate the period of limitation from the date of issue of refund order. Sorry?
1920, I think date was incorrect.
Date is incorrect. So this is subject to disclaimer. Verify the dates. This is just a chart provided by me to understand how you will be able to. There may be changes in the dates. Now, judgments, how you will defend the extended period of limitation. Now, see, explanation 2 provided in section 74, what it says, expression suppression shall mean non-declaration of facts, information which a taxable person is required to declare in written, statement, report, or any other document furnished under this act or the rules made thereunder, or failure to furnish any information on being asked for in writing by the proper officer. So suppression is failure to declare in return, etc. That is what is the explanation provided. Similar provision was there under service tax and excise also. There are some judgments which I have quoted here for which may be helpful to all of you. Mere non-declaration of declaration in return cannot be labeled as suppression. So not declaring in return doesn't mean that I have suppressed something. There was some exemption issue in that. So that is basically a central excise case. Came for drugs. Then there is detailed declaration in details declared in books of account cannot be said to be suppressed. Now, suppose something you have not declared in written, but it is recorded in the books of account. It cannot be said that there is a suppression because you have duly recorded in the books of accounts. So this is the judgment which can be relied upon if the section 74 is invoked. Now, intention to evade duty. Now, this is the observation of the Supreme Court that the word willful is there for considering something as a fraud, collusion, or misstatement or suppression. It has to be willful. So that has to be brought on record as to the particular act is willful. So this is one more judgment which can support your stand. Now coming to this penalty aspect, section 73, if you make payment with interest before issuance of show cause notice, there is no penalty. After issue of show cause notice, if you are making payment within 30 days, there will not be penalty. After 30 days of issue of show cause notice, if you are making payment with interest, tax payment with interest, then there will be penalty of 10% of tax or rupees 10,000, whichever is higher. Now here, if you make payment, all the proceedings are deemed to be concluded. So there will not be any further proceedings. That is what the law says. Then there is a penalty of rupees 10,000 which is provided, which according to me is disproportionate in this small quantum of liability. Suppose if you have liability of rupees only 2,000 or 1,000 CGST, SGST after the show cause notice, and if you are making payment of that, or there may be the liability of 5,000, then there will be penalty of 10,000 under CGST and SGST both. So 20,000 penalty, which appears to be compulsory, which can be contested, but then we will have to reply show cause notice, etc. Then this is situation under section 74. What if if you want to accept the liability, then in that case, before issuance of show cause notice, you have to pay 15%. After issuance of show cause notice within 30 days, you'll have to pay 25%, and after 30 days, you'll have to pay penalty 50%. And then there is a penalty of 100% of the tax. That is the cap provided for penalty. Now coming to the prescribed forms, DRC 01A that we discussed is the intimation about the liability pre-show cause notice. That is, in part A, they ascertain the liability. Then in part B, you have to reply about the acceptance of liability. Then summary DRC 01 is the summary of show cause notice. It is a summary of show cause notice which is uploaded on the portal, which contains facts and grounds, which may be separately attached. Then DRC 02 is the intimation of liability on the same ground. If they want to issue a statement, then DRC 03 is intimation of payment made voluntarily, which you make payment. Then 04 is the acknowledgement of payment, which according to me, no one is receiving. So once you accept the liability, as ASMT 12 is supposed to be issued by the department, once 10 is issued, you file 11 with payment of tax. They have to issue 12 for acceptance of whatever you have submitted. Similarly, if you accept liability in DRC 03, they have to issue DRC 04 for acceptance of that liability and closure of proceeding. But they are not issuing that. Then intimation of conclusion of proceeding, that is also not happening according to me, if you are accepting the liability. But for that, then you'll have to properly write a letter and take acknowledgement if they are not issuing DRC 04 and 05. Then DRC 06, reply to show cause notice, which has to be elaborate, that we will be dealing with. Then summary of order in DRC 07. These are the forms which are given for adjudication. Then general provisions relating to, now these are the important provisions under section 75. These provisions are applicable irrespective of whether or not the notice has been invoked the extended period while issuing notice, or are in the nature of general provisions for demand notice. So these provisions are applicable for both section 73 and 74. Where service of notice or an issue of order has been stayed by a court. So this is for extending the period of limitation. Suppose notice was issued and you challenged that notice in the High Court. Then if there is a stay issued by the court, then that period will be excluded from the period of limitation. So they have safeguarded themselves. Then when a notice has been issued under clause 1 of section 74, but the charges of fraud, suppression, misstatement of facts to evade tax are not sustainable or not established, then that proceeding will be automatically converted to notice under section 73. So they don't want to lose revenue. What in the olden era used to happen is that they used to issue notice for the suppression of facts or suppression of evasion of tax, etc., under extended period of limitation. And then when that extended period of limitation is challenged and sustained, whole proceeding used to set aside. Now they want it to be restored under section 73 automatically. Therefore, they have made this provision. So even if you would be able to prove that there is no suppression, your proceeding will be converted to section 73. Then the order in pursuance of the appellate authority, appellate tribunal or court shall be issued within 2 years from the date of communication of the said direction. So in case of remand back, they have put limitation period of 2 years from the date of communication. Then opportunity of personal hearing has to be granted when the request is made by the person chargeable with tax, where any adverse decision is proposed to be taken against the person. So there is express provision which says that you have to make a request for personal hearing. And then personal hearing has to be given by the adjudicating officer. Now personal hearing can be adjourned with sufficient cause. Now regarding that personal hearing, there are two judgments which are either side. One says that unless the personal hearing is asked, it is not required to be given, and other says that it is compulsory that personal hearing to be given. Now personal hearing can be adjourned with sufficient cause is shown in writing. However, such adjournment can be granted for maximum 3 times. So there is provision in the adjudication also of 3 times. So beyond 3 times, you cannot take an adjournment. But according to me, this is directory provision. This provision, similar provision is there under CPC, which was challenged before Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has read down that provision, saying that it is directory and not mandatory. The relevant facts and basis of the decision shall be set out in the order. So all the facts have to be set out in the order. If without stating facts and grounds, if the show cause notice is given, it can be said that it is invalid or not lawful. There has to be tax, interest, penalty, amounts should be stated in the show cause notice. Shall not be more than what is mentioned in the notice, and grounds shall not go beyond what is mentioned in the notice. So these are the provisions. Then when tribunal, court, authority modifies the amount, tax, corresponding interest and penalty shall be modified. So this is automatic. They say that when the appellate authority would modify tax amount, corresponding interest and penalty will be automatically modified. Then interest shall be payable in all cases, whether specifically mentioned or not. Deemed conclusion of adjudication, if the order is not issued within 3 years of under section 73(10). So there is deemed assessment provision was there under section 73 of VAT. Similar provision is there. So once there is no limitation period is over, it is deemed to be concluded. No penalty for same act or omission if penalty under section 73-74 is levied. If 73-74 penalty is levied, then there will not be any other penal proceedings under other sections. Self-assessed tax reported in GSTR 1 under section 37 can be recovered under section 79 if the same is not included in turnover under section 39. Now, see, this was the issue which many of us may have, that the can department directly reach out to the bank for recovery of whatever amount we have quoted or reported in GSTR 1. as per GSTR 1, there is some liability which is greater than what is reported in GSTR 3B. Then in that case, can the department directly reach out to bank for recovery? There is one judgment of I think Jharkhand High Court in Mahadev Construction, wherein it is held that the recovery cannot be made directly from the bank without adjudication process. Then coming to recovery proceedings in the under section 78, taxable amounts should be paid by person within 3 months from the date of service. Now, this is very important aspect which we have to consider. According to me, this has to be considered by the government also or the administrative officers also, because they are not following the proper provisions of law or the rules which are there framed under the GST Act. Because provision says that the recovery action will be started within 3 months from the date of service, provided where the proper officer considers it expedient, in the interest of revenue, he may, for reasons to be recorded in writing, require the said person to make payment within such less period than a period of 3 months as may be specified. Now he has to record the reason if you want to recover within less than 3 months. Now here I have observed this rule 142(5), summary of orders issued under section 73, 74, 75, 76 or other sections shall be uploaded electronically in DRC 07. That is what rule 142(5) says, that these summary of orders are to be uploaded on the portal. Then 142(6) says order referred to under section 1 under rule, sorry, this is rule under rule 142(5) shall be treated as notice for recovery. So notice for recovery will trigger when the order is uploaded on the portal under rule 142(5). Unless it is uploaded on the portal, the recovery will not trigger. So 3 months period will start from the date of uploading on the portal that order. Unless the summary order is uploaded electronically, recovery proceeding cannot be initiated. So that aspect we have to, not only we, department has to remember that they have to upload on the portal, because many of the instances we come across that the orders are issued manually. They are not uploading on the portal. Sometimes unsigned orders are uploaded on the portal. They are not order itself. There is a judgment on that. So that order, duly signed, electronically signed order has to be uploaded on the portal for recovery proceeding to start. Then contents of show cause notice. Now quickly coming to contents of show cause notice. In the these are the logical things, that there has to be facts in the show cause notice. Then action and violation of provisions. Officer has to state. Now see, under VAT, they used to write in one para, determine gross turnover so much, then net turnover so much, then net tax so much, set off determined so much. That will not be proper order as well as show cause notice. Now at the time of issuing show cause notice, they have to evaluate facts. They have to propose actions for violation of law, violation of provisions. They have to properly mention their allegations, and they have to state the evidence on which they are relying upon for their cause of action. Then they have to propose what action they are going to take. Then they have to give the opportunity of hearing, and then adjudication, that order will be passed. So these are all things they have to consider in the show cause notice itself. Now section 16, very dangerous, you all know. Section 169, which provides for the service of show cause notice. So there are various modes which are there, which are amongst that dangerous is email and uploading on the portal, which we are facing problem. Now, according to me, I have not been able to make research on that. I will give you food for thought and to research. That portal for service has not been notified yet. They have notified portal for filing return, but for uploading notices and orders, they have not notified GST network portal or the whatever the GST portal which we file return, on which we file return, is the portal for service of notice. There's no notification. I tried to search it. Umang, do that work later. You can just, because we can say that there's no service at all, because that portal is not the notified yet for service of notice. So that we'll have to check. So this is dangerous according to me. Then this is some procedural aspect which I have stated. We've discussed this ASMT 10, 11, etc. Hello, आवाज नहीं आते? So ASM, I have just given here the one-liners as to how to defend ITC if ITC is disallowed. Now we are facing notices for disallowance of ITC on the basis of 2A and table 8A of GSTR 9. Then there are RC cancellations, turnover in GSTR 1 is more and reported less in GSTR 3B. Then reply in ASMT 10 has to be filed. So these are my suggestions basically, which you may follow, you may not follow. If you are convinced you can follow. According to me, we have to reconcile ITC of 3B with 2A for reducing the apparent liability, because ultimately then if you have to file appeal, you have to land up in paying 10% of whatever tax comes. So you first do your reconciliation. Then circular, you can rely on the circulars issued by the state government and the central government regarding the ledger confirmation for reducing liability. If above options are not possible, still disallowance of ITC can be contested on the basis of section 16(2)(a) was not in existence up to 1/1/2022. So this is what is the suggestion. ITC can be disallowed, cannot be disallowed unless department proves about non-payment of tax into government treasury. So you have DY in support of you, DY Wither's judgment and press note released by the CBIC. That press note is stated in that judgment. Then bring on record the fact that taxable person has complied with the conditions of section 16(2). What are the conditions of section 16(2)? Possession of valid tax invoice, receipt of goods, then payment made to vendor, etc. If reply accepted, then intimation has to be issued, which never happens actually. Now important contents of DRC 06. Now see, they have provided a format. Online you get that format for reply to show cause notice. In that there are contents which say that reply. There's a text provided. I don't think all content will remain there. So you have to mention there separately attached and to be signed by the taxpayer with verification specified in the format. So you have to separately draft your reply to show cause notice. While filing online, you have to state there separately attached and attach in the documents. Then documents uploaded, list of documents you have to provide. Separately, you can mention there separately attached. Option for personal hearing, this is important. In the prescribed form only, they ask whether you want personal hearing or no. So it is advisable that you should click yes for opting for personal hearing. Now, this is one favorable judgment which I have quoted. Asia Engineering Company, this is again of Madras High Court, wherein even if you do not upload that reply to show cause notice, if you send it by post or physical, if you submit, that has to be considered by the adjudicating authority. He cannot ignore just by saying that you have not uploaded, therefore I will not consider. So if you have the substantiating evidence that you have, if you have acknowledgement in your hand, he has to consider that reply. That is what held by the Honorable Madras High Court. Then contents of show cause notice. Now this is also a suggestion which I am making here in my PPT, that request for personal hearing should be made. This is one specific. When I write reply to show cause notice, my first sentence is this, that this reply to show cause notice is not, the word which I use is not elaborate or the should not be considered final. Personal hearing may be given for adducing the additional evidences and facts. That is what is my first line of the reply to show cause notice. So first I make personal request for personal hearing. Then second, you can write, because see, while writing reply to show cause notice, you have to deal with each and every aspect stated in the show cause notice. You cannot ignore even a single allegation or single sentence which which having effect on the liability. So you first write the actions proposed in the show cause notice. So in my second para, I state what are the actions proposed in the show cause notice. And then conclusion, what is proposed in the show cause notice. Then I mention what are the claims and allegations made in the show cause notice. Mention claims of show cause notice and provisions relied upon. So you mention what show cause notice is claiming and on what provisions it is relying upon. So in simple terms, you have to reproduce what is stated in the show cause notice, and you have to deal with each and every aspect. Then thereafter, my fourth part of the reply of show cause notice deals with the facts based on which the correct facts stated in the show cause notice. So I deal with the facts which are stated in the show cause notice, and if the said facts are not correctly stated, I say in the show cause notice that this is not correctly stated in the show cause notice, and if there is any substantiating evidence to substantiate that fact, I mention that the same is annexed here with. Then submission to be made on the relevant law point, correct interpretation of law, and how the law is not correctly applied in the show cause notice. In factual aspect, then if the law is used, how it is not correctly applied in my case, that I state. Then submission to be made based on the applicable judgments. Then you have to refer to the judgments, and all the judgments have to be annexed. Then conclusion and prayer. Last part is conclusion and prayer as to how allegations and claims made in the show cause notice are not sustainable. So these are the general parts while dealing with the reply to the show cause notice. Now, coverage of issues. So these are the additional suggestions. Cover response to all issues, allegations made in the show cause notice. If any of the issue allegation is not addressed, the proper officer may deem it as accepted of the same, and it will have negative impact on the outcome of the adjudication process. So you cannot ignore even a single sentence in the show cause notice which is affecting the liability. You have to negate each and every. Otherwise, while passing order, he may say that he has not commented on this particular aspect, and therefore he has accepted it. Reference to legal provision. Court provisions of law explain the same in detailed manner, which will convey as to how same has been interpreted in the given situation or facts or circumstances of the notices. Interpretation issues. When the issue involves interpretation, penal provision cannot be invoked on the notice. So you can take that stand that there is an interpretation issue, and therefore penal provision cannot be invoked. The discussed allegations in show cause notice give reasons as to why conclusion drawn in the show cause notice by way of wrong interpretation cannot be held valid in view of relevant provisions of law. So this is the then classification. If there is a classification issue, I have suggested that refer chapter, judicial precedents, and distinction between the tariff which is mentioned in the show cause notice and tariff which you are relying. So these are all aspects you can consider while replying show cause notice. If calculation table is provided, you provide your table to contest that. Then annex case laws documents should be annexed separately with proper index. So it is my suggestion that you should make proper index and annex all the documents which you are relying upon. After every para, wherever you are mentioning or making reference to that document, you write below annexed as exhibit A, exhibit B, and accordingly prepare an index of that documents you are annexing. These are few judgments. SCN can only be issued electronically on the common portal. So this is one judgment which is favorable, that show cause notice, if the manually issued, it cannot be considered as SCN. This is MP High Court judgment. It has to be issued online, show cause notice. Then there has to be DIN number. If the DIN number is not mentioned, document identification number is not mentioned, it will not be treated as a valid communication or valid show cause notice. There is a specific circular issued by CBIC in that respect. However, state circular is not available. So far as central show cause notices, we can rely on this circular. Then pre-consultation, we have discussed this aspect. Section Rule 142(1)A specifically talks about the pre-consultation. If pre-consultation is not given, then show cause notice is not valid. You can contest on that point also. Then testing validity of show cause notice. Now, see, how can you test the validity of show cause notice? About jurisdiction, you have to look after, you have to consider whether that officer who is issuing me show cause notice, he has power to issue that show cause notice, that we have to check. Now, how you will check? I have not been able to make little research on that. So far as state circulars or notifications are concerned, but central notification is available dated 5th July 2017, wherein it is which deals with the jurisdiction of proper officer to execute various functions entrusted under the provisions of Act and rules. Whenever you receive show cause notice, you have to check whether that officer has power as per that circular or not. Then assignment of territorial jurisdiction. Territorial jurisdiction, so far as central this thing is concerned, central or tax officer is concerned, there is a notification dated 19 June 2017, which talks about the territorial jurisdiction. State will have to verify. Then there is a favorable judgment. Person issuing show cause notice should be assigned the function. Unless that function is assigned to him, he cannot issue show cause notice. That will be invalid show cause notice. Then similar judgment is in case of Canon India. This we can utilize. Then monetary limits are specified by the central GST. That circular is there, wherein it is specifically stated that superintendent can deal with the demand up to ₹20 lakhs. Then deputy commissioner or assistant commissioner can deal with the demand from 20 lakhs to 1 crore. And additional commissioner, joint commissioner can deal with the demand above 1 crore. So if there is some disparity in this, you can raise the objection while replying to the show cause notice. Then central tax officer or audit commissioner, director general of that DGGSTI shall exercise powers only to issue show cause notice. Show cause notice issued by them shall be adjudicated by the competent central tax officer, executive, commissionerate, in whose jurisdiction the notice is registered. So this is very important. This concept is under central GST, Central Excise Service Tax. This is based on one Latin maxim. I don't recollect that maxim is there in my PPT. Path would recollect that. क्या है वो jurex कुछ है. वो one who is adjudicator cannot be judge of his own cause. If I am issuing show cause notice, I cannot be judge in my own case, and therefore, if the show cause notice is issued by that audit team, it has to be adjudicated by the adjudicating team. That is the concept which is followed by the central government. But here in the state, that concept is not being followed. So we can challenge that also, that you cannot be judge in my case. So you issue show cause notice, but you cannot adjust that show cause notice. That is that they are following. Central government is following, but the state government is not following. Now, where proper officer under the State Goods and Service Tax Act. Now, this is about if the proceeding initiated by there's a specific section. If the proceeding is initiated by the state government, the same proceeding cannot be initiated by the central government officer. So these are the aspects which you can consider while replying to the show cause notice or the testing the validity of the show cause notice. Now, these are few judgments which I have quoted. Allegations made based on the evidence, proof, not merely assumptions, presumptions. These are the judgments. I'll not go into that. Let us quickly go to the next this thing. This is regarding extended period of limitation. Again, judgments I have quoted which may be useful to you while dealing with the show cause notice. You can read those judgments and you can apply those judgments in your own cases. Is important things which I can speak here are regarding the show cause notice due to departmental audit. There are sometimes internal audit going on and they issue show cause notice. If that is issued, you can rely on the dynamic industries judgment. Then where penalties drop, now in some cases penalties are dropped. You can if the first appellate authority drops penalty, you can say that that is not covered under section 74. So proceedings can be set aside. There's one judgment in that respect. Then coming to principles of natural justice. Now, principle of natural justice is specifically provided under section 76(5). Opportunity of personal hearing should be granted and both the parties should be heard. That principle is there which has to be followed. Then no adjudication shall be granted for more than 3 times. No adjournment shall be granted for more than, I stated that this is directory provision, this is not mandatory. Salem Bar Association judgment, Supreme Court judgment is there that 3 hearings is not mandatory. If there is some genuine reason for which you require an adjournment, it is necessary that adjudicating authority has to give you further opportunity of hearing beyond 3 hearings. Concept of natural justice and legal justice. Nemo judice, this is the Latin maxim. Now, this judgment has nicely explained as to how the natural justice is important, even if there is no opportunity of hearing in the provisions of law provided. The officer has to give opportunity of hearing. That is what this judgment says. Now, principle of natural justice apply even if this is another judgment of the similar nature, that even if the provision of law does not speak about giving personal hearing, the adjudicating officer or the officer who is passing an order has to give you the opportunity of hearing or the personal hearing. Then this is the observation of the Supreme Court as to how the government officer deal with the adjudication proceedings. They apply the circulars, they apply the internal instructions, etc. They should not, whenever any mention of internal circular or something is there, you can challenge on the basis of the Orient Papers Mills judgment that he is a judge of that case. He has to act independently while dealing with that particular matter or adjudicating that matter. So you cannot rely on the internal instructions or circulars. That is what is in the judgment it is stated. Now coming to this, I will read these observations. Honorable Court noted that Section 73 proceedings can be initiated for this is important. This will be helpful in many cases. Now nowadays what is happening, that they are issuing 73 or 74 notices for disallowing your Senvat credit, which is brought forward by way of Tran 1. Now I have come across one case wherein in my excise return of last return was June. So January to March return, I had closing balance some 50,000 rupees, and in the next return, which ends on April to June, in that return, I had to carry forward 50,000, whatever closing balance of the previous return. My client has carried forward 1 lakh rupees instead of carrying forward 50,000 rupees. And therefore, that 1 lakh rupees has resulted into another 1,50,000 rupees, which is actually 1 lakh rupees only. So now in adjudication process by way of 73 or 74, officer wants to disallow that Senvat credit of difference of opening balance 50,000 under GST by way of this 74 proceeding. Now in his case, it is held by the Honorable Court that, this is Jharkhand High Court, that you cannot disallow Senvat credit of the old law. It is not there because it is not ITC, it is neither ITC, neither output tax. It is Senvat of the old law. So you cannot disallow here under the proceedings of GST. You have to go to the old act and disallow there. So this is helpful judgment according to me. Now, mandatory requirement of law provided under Section 75. This we have dealt with, that opportunity of hearing is required to be given, even if not stated in the reply to show cause notice. Now this is adverse judgment. There are 2 contradictory judgments, as I stated, that this previous judgment of Andhra Pradesh High Court says that even if request is not made for personal hearing has to be given. And Calcutta High Court says that personal hearing can be given only when the request is made. So it is my suggestion that you should always ask for the personal hearing. Then DRC 07 without reasoning is violative of principle of natural justice, Allahabad High Court. Then they have to give, now this is in Rahul's case, Sheetal Dilip Jain, we all must be aware about this. In that case, state GST officer was inflicted with cost of rupees 10,000 because now for not giving time of 30 days. See, time of 30 days of this for replying is not there in the provision specifically under section 73 or 74. But it says that within 30 days, if you make payment, there will not be penal action. So that impliedly says that you have to reply, pay or reply within 30 days. So officer has to wait for 30 days. So instead of waiting for 30 days, the officer had passed the order within 7 days. So there, High Court had took very strong view and inflicted with the cost to the adjudicating officer of 10,000. So this is by Bombay High Court. Then these are the common general grounds which you have to raise while which you would have understood. SCN not consistent with ASMT 10. Then liability raised on the grounds not specified in SCN. So whatever grounds are raised in the SCN, on that basis only liability has to be raised. Amount of liability cannot exceed proposed liability in SCN. Violation of limitation period, extended period of limitation, these all aspects we have dealt with. Now coming to limitation period for filing appeal shall start only after the order against which appeal is filed is uploaded on the portal. Now I am coming to appeal. So this is just helpful. This is not relevant to my topic, but I have quoted here that period of limitation will start only when the order is uploaded on the portal. If you have received order on email but not uploaded on the portal, then we can say that the limitation period has not started. Then there's one more judgment regarding limitation. There's one more judgment which have come recently that High Court has condoned delay beyond the entertained petition and condoned the delay, saying that for illness, I don't recollect that judgment, but recently there's one judgment of Allahabad High Court, I think. This is similar judgment wherein for malfunctioning of the errors of the GSTN portal, the High Court has excluded the period of limitation during which that malfunctioning was happening or the portal was not working. That period should not be considered for computing the period of limitation for filing appeal. That is what the Allahabad High Court has stated. Now this is regarding pre-deposit, whether I can make payment of pre-deposit by using electronic credit ledger. Our own High Court has given favorable judgment. OAS is reality. With this, I thank you all for giving patient hearing. I think I have completed in time.
Sir, we have a few questions. We can take it.
Yes. अगर time है तो ले लेते.
Question. There. First question is if ADT 02 is issued, can the officer ask for other documents which are not related to paragraph in ADT 02 during proceedings in section 73?
If ADT 02 is issued, it means he has concluded the audit proceedings. If he has concluded the audit, he has to issue separate notice for asking for the additional documents which are not relevant to the audit proceeding or the points raised in the audit proceedings. हे बंद करना है. बघू दे ना कोण आहे समोर.
If there are any other questions, please raise your hand online, and if physically there are any questions, you can ask.
Hello.
There
My lecture was my PPT was very clear. So yes.
Just so-called notice, we have replied to that, but how can we come to know that is has been accepted or there is no reply?
You have received so-called notice. You have replied to it. Now,
Also for that, not received anything communicated.
you don't have to pursue according to me. You have made request for personal hearing, right? Have you made request for personal hearing? You have made request for personal hearing. You can practically you can go to officer and request for personal hearing and ask as to what has happened in that particular proceeding. But if the officer is not reacting, you don't have to become panic, because there is period of limitation provided under the law for passing the order, and officer cannot pass after the limitation period is over. So it is good for you if he is not proceeding with the adjudication. And if he proceeds with the adjudication without personal hearing, despite you making request, then that will not be the correct order or the sustainable order. 74 time limit is 5 years.
CL issued under section 127.
127.
Read section 125, 39 and 62.
127 क्या है?
Penalty beyond 73 is 74 and 120.
Power of imposition of penalty in certain cases where proper officer is of the view that person is liable to pay penalty and the same is not covered under any proceedings under section 62. He may issue order levying penalty after giving reasonable opportunity of being heard. तो 73, 74 का से अलग कोई पेनल्टी है इसमें आपके इसमें क्या है? व्हाट इज देयर इन योर केस?
EB is not filed for January 20, for that why does he have to give 125?
3B not for
Why does he have to give?
he is not required to give.
Is there English give 74?
He can give 73, 74.
I think it's 75 or around. Get a 75 to him.
He can basically वो जो section है for not filing of return, he can make base judgment assessment. For that he can issue notice.
62.
For not filing, he can give notice. It is not strictly you can say that he cannot give notice. He can give notice, but if he is not, you replied appropriately, and if he is not passing order, why you are pursuing? Let him pass order. You can file appeal against that.
And you file return, forget it.
File return.
ठीक है.
ये ले लो. Otherwise आपको आना पड़ेगा मेरे पास. Okay, thank you very much for patient hearing and giving me opportunity to learn the subject. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dinesh sir, for a very detailed presentation on how to reply to show cause notice. I'm sure everyone has learned something from it. I'm glad to note, sir, that there are more than 80 participants online as well.
Oh, great, thank you.
So it is not the case. People are attending online. And with this, we come to an end to the study circle. For the next study circle, you will get intimation very soon. Are there any announcements? Thank you, everyone.
You can only the act is printed on the. It is
sometimes it happens that many a times it happens. Because I was for them earlier. And that case was transferred to some other. So email ID जो रहता है वो पुरानी है. So when आप consultant का तो mobile illegal. I think then you take the other position also when mobile number. Suppose he passes away. So in that case also we are not able to get connected. So we have suggested them as per income tax, there are two email IDs, one in primary and secondary. And for SMS also there are two SMS mobile numbers, primary number, owner's number, and alternative number. And you get the SMS and mail also on the both mail and both SMS on the. So they accepted our suggestion and they said he will come up with this and will because we told them consideration के पास there as per income tax there we can hold 10 numbers only 10 email IDs for the person. So they have accepted our suggestion and looking तो उनका जो टैक्स साहब थे तो he said कि भाई आप हमको और भी बोलेंगे हम तो ये भी नोट कर रहे हैं कि आपको आजकल टेलीग्राम नया है टेलीग्राम में भी आप हम लोग उसमें डाल देंगे and then WhatsApp also he was very keen on that. We appreciated their thought process and they said we will come back with that immediately. Hope to get it very soon, but as you know the
This problem is there. And following of the recovery through phone call after 1 month, so that you will know that there is a order passed. So we were worried about if this kind of instructions are given to the officer, it should not percolate in the other manner. That recovery proceeding should actually be initiated within 1 month. So 3 months time is there for initiating recovery proceeding. So for safeguarding our interest, they say that we will call the dealer and we will inform him that you have to pay this much amount of tax and this is the order passed. That is what they stated. That is the temporary relief for the relief in the practical manner the state people have given. There say state people say that we cannot do anything. We have sent proposal for making some arrangement of making aware properly, not only uploading on the portal. So this is where center also people have accepted center system is here. This state people are helpless because unless the center takes proper or the GST council recommends them to make some amendment in section 169 or not to follow that uploading only on the portal, they will not be able to do anything. So they have state people have committed that we will ensure that the order will be served to the dealer and will be made aware about that order is passed. Center also they are accepting, but they are helpless. Field officers are different and the policy officers are different. That is CBSE. Now, one update which I would give is this that in Supreme Court one matter is pending, wherein the order was served on the portal. Now there is stand taken by the other issue which I stated to this PPT that while presenting my PPT I stated that there is no proper notification issued for service of for saying that the portal is for service of there is no notification of that manner that was argued before the Supreme Court. So the government took stand saying that when we upload on the portal, in the back end system is framed in such a manner that the automatic email is sent to the registered email ID which is given at the time of registration. So now the Supreme Court has directed them to produce the evidence that the email is sent to the dealer or the taxable person. So this is going on in the Supreme Court. So we have to fight on all the fronts. We have to take it in the litigation. We have to ask our dealer to approach their dealers association to make the representation. We are also making here the representation. So here when we make strong representation, people are aware that these people say that how much you are and how you are concerned with it, how understanding you have in it. So that is the problem. So we have to push our client to approach their dealers association to make representation on that front.
When they issue ASMP tag and when you have to reply there, center has a different procedure and the state has a different procedure. State people say that you are on website. Center say you email us and you give physical copies. In case of center, there is no tag to upload the reply ASMP 11 on site. I'm surprising when the GST portal is saying.
That is why I stated that the rule 142. Till whenever you attend before the officer, center officer, this problem is there. I know the center officer, they are adjudicating passing adjudication order physically. They are not uploading on the portal. They neither are uploading notices on the portal. You have to point out them, you have to write them, you have to show them rule 142, which specifically talks about uploading notices and order on the portal. So that is there, that problem is there. We can make representation for doing it through portal because see we have a problem both ways. When they do physically, we have a problem. When they do online, we have a problem.
In this case, we could have, it is far better than the center. Actually, this could include in case of state. Even you give us physically and don't have, you know, online. In center is not. It's something we have to work on again.
तो जो आपके रिप्लाई जाते हैं वो टू देम दैट सेंट्रलाइज्ड प्रोसीजर में जाता है और वहां से फिर वो टैक्स होता है इनके पास तो दैट्स व्हाई दे से कि भाई आप हमारे पास पहले भेज दो तो वी आर टाइम टू सी दैट बाकी अदरवाइज यू हैव ऑल राइट टू पुट इट ऑन द पोर्टल देयर इज नो प्रॉब्लम don't pull down don't pull down don't pull online भी है तो ऑनलाइन में एक दो बोलते हैं हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं वी आर डूइंग इट फॉर क्लाइंट्स राइट तो एक लेटेस्ट टेक इट इन द राइटर बोलता ज्यादा सीरियसली मत लो राइट स्पिरिट में ले लो भाई वन लेडी दिस इज अंडर इनकम टैक्स वन ओल्ड लेडी शी गॉट द नोटिस ऑफ scrutiny what we call in income tax scrutiny she has good income of rupees 1 crore or something like that. तो ऑफिसर से कहाँ से आया इतना इनकम ऑफिसर बोलता है नोटिस आया आपको अभी he says that ये मेरा एग्रीकल्चर इनकम है which is not taxable एग्रीकल्चर इनकम is not taxable ना अंडर इनकम टैक्स जो भी है मैं भी प्रेज्यूम करता हूँ टैक्सेबल नहीं है जो भी ना तो टैक्सेबल नहीं है बोलती है तो बोलते हैं नहीं यू टेल अस टू आप इतने बुजुर्ग हो आपका कहाँ से आपको ये तो सब्सटेंशिएट तो बोलती है कि सच बोलती हूँ मैं सर आपको आपको सच बोलती हूँ ये ना मैं बेटी का पैसा है सब बेटी में मिलता है मुझे लेकिन मैं वो टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा इसके लिए मैं बोलती हूँ एग्रीकल्चर मिलता हूँ तो ऑफिसर बोलता है कि किस तरीके की बेट करते हो बेट लगाते हो आप कौन से बेट पे आपको इतना पैसा मिलता है तो वो बोलती है चलो मैं आपको मैं एक्सपेरिमेंट कराती हूँ अगर आपने जो आपके सर के ऊपर बाल है ना वो सच नहीं है झूठे दे आर नॉट रियल है झूठे ऑफिसर बोलता है तो मेरे सच्चे किधर झूठे नहीं मैं आपको आपसे बेट लगा रही हूँ चलो 10 लाख 5 लाख का बेट लग गया कि आपके बाल झूठे
तो ऑफिसर बोलता है कि ठीक है, मेरे तो बाल गेल है, तो मैं तो जीत जाऊंगा। तो बोलती है कि ठीक है फिर, लेकिन कंक्लूड कब करेंगे ये बेटी? वो बोलते हैं मैं कल कंक्लूड करेंगे, मैं कल मेरे वकील को लेके आता हूँ जो मेरा केस देख रहा है, उसको लेके आती हूँ आपके पास, तभी हम लोग कंक्लूड करते हैं। ऑफिसर बोल रहा है फिर ये कमिटमेंट लेती है उससे कि अगर मैं ये बेट कंप्लीट करूँ तो ये प्रोसीडिंग में आप प्रोसीडिंग ड्रॉप कर दोगे। वो बोलता है कि ठीक है, मेरे को तो वैसे भी 5 लाख रुपए मिलने वाले हैं, बोलता है ऑफिसर। टेक इट इन द लाइटर नोट ना, वो कुछ ऐसा ये नहीं है, रियल भी नहीं। तो ऑफिसर बोलते हैं कि ठीक है, आ जाओ कल, तो 5 लाख तो मेरे को मिलने वाले हैं, बोलता है। दूसरे दिन वो वकील को लेके आती है, एडवोकेट को साथ में। एडवोकेट बैठता है, बेचारा एक्सप्लेन करता है उसको। ये वो बेट उसके साथ ऐसी लगी होती है कि वो लेडी ने बोला होता है ऑफिसर को कि मैं खुद इंश्योर करूंगी कि आपका वीक है या नहीं। तो होता है, तो आते नेक्स्ट डे वो बेचारा एडवोकेट एक्सप्लेन करता है क्या मैटर है उसकी केस। तो वो लेडी बोलते हैं रुको 1 मिनट। ये उठती है, जाके उसके बाल नोचने लगती है। तो ऑफिसर खुश होता है कि देखा मेरे रियल है। और वो एक तरफ, दूसरी तरफ जो एडवोकेट होता है वकील, वो बेचारा खुद का सर पटक रहा रहता है दीवार पे। ऑफिसर पूछता है अरे वो क्यों सर पटक रहा है? वो बोलती है कि मैंने उसके साथ बेट लगाई है कि मैं, मुझे 10 लाख की बेट है, मैं इसके बाल नोचूंगी जाके। तो वो ऐसा है कि हम लोग वो क्लाइंट के लिए सिंसियरली, वो वकील नहीं बनना है सर पटकने वाला। वो लेडी लेडी को तो 10 लाख रुपया मिल गया, 5 लाख रुपया ऑफिसर को दे दिया, इसका प्रोसीडिंग खत्म हो गया। तो डोंट बी दैट वकील। तो थैंक यू वेरी मच, आई थिंक वी शुड कंक्लूड। थैंक यू, थैंक यू।
National